I once got into this situation. I had a group of students come and visit me with a faculty member in charge of them. And he was very obstreperous. He argued. He really wanted to argue. So I got the general drift of his argument, see, what sort of opinions were likable to him, and then said something that would entirely accord with that sort of opinion system. And he denied it. So I said, "Sir, you are playing a game. You are bound and determined to disagree with anything I say." And he was nonplussed. So, you see, we are under this tremendous social pressure because talking with each other is our principal means of communication. And so more and more it hypnotizes us. When you hypnotize a person, you do it chiefly by talking. Relax while I count up to 5, be very relaxed, etc., all that jazz. And so it is the word which spellbinds us. Look at that word, to spellbind. The victim of spelling. And so all these conventions of language in which we think, even if we're quite illiterate people think in words just as much as literate people. In other words, an ordinary ignoramus is just as much, if not more, under the spell of words than an intellectual. Children, as soon as they're taught language, become absolutely clobbered by it and resent tremendously being called something. So if I say Johnny's a sissy, he called me a sissy. And children are absolute victims of the calendar. They want to know when it's going to happen. How soon is Christmas? How soon is my birthday? They want time to go in jerks from one festival to another because they are so poisoned by adult conceptions. They have no antibodies against them. So likewise, the Japanese have no antibodies against Western culture. They're complete victims of it. They succumb to smog and even think it's a good thing to have smog. Have songs about it. How the beautiful fog over the furnace buildings of the factories. Yeah. Haiku. No, this is true. I'm not kidding. In a nation of people that's supposed to be great lovers of nature. Japan is unbelievable. Go to a beach in Japan, you would think they would appreciate wonderful stretches of sand and rocks and the sound of the waves. The tide line of a Japanese beach almost anywhere around the island is a complete mess of plastic cast-offs. Sun lotion bottles, condoms, discarded sandals, anything you can imagine, just masses of it. Go to a natural beauty place where all the tourists go to look at the famous view, and the whole place is scattered with rubbish. Napkins, Kleenex, sandwich bags, cigarette packages, what have you. When you travel in Japan on the underground in Tokyo, one always imagine the Japanese very polite. And in their own setting and in their own cultural context, they indeed are. But on a subway, everything goes amok. And people are crammed in like sardines. They even have special officials to shove the crowd into, into the train. and they cannot cope with this situation that is foreign to their cultural context. So this is what I'm saying is watch out for your social conditioning and how your constant commerce in language with other people shapes the way in which you actually sense the world. Now, we say seeing is believing, but it is truer to say that believing is seeing. There was a very marvelous scientist of optics by the name of Albert Ames, who devised a whole series of experiments where you could go into a big room, say, and there were booths all around. And in these booths, there were exhibits that defied the laws of logic, or seemed to. There was, for example, the marvelous experiment of the trapezoidal window. You make a window frame, one side of which is much longer than the other, see? Then you suspend this on wires in such a way that an axis is formed through the perpendicular center of the frame. And on this, the frame revolves. What you see is a window frame twitching like this. It's actually going round, but it seems to be twitching. Then you put a little cube on one upper corner and color it red, see, so it'll stand out. And you see this thing twitching, but the cube unaccountably going round. Then another experiment where you're in a dark room, there's a group of people, and a little bright light suddenly appears in front of them, very small. And the operator says, will those who observe any movement of this light please account for it and describe it? So somebody says it's floating upwards. Somebody says it's now drifting off to the left, and all this conversation goes on. Then the lights are turned up, and it's shown that this point had never moved at all. It was a fixed light. So there are all kinds of things. I mean, Ames only scratched the surface of what we see because we believe in it. We see what we want to see, or what we're supposed to see, and are not really very aware of what's going on. Now, all stage magic is based on this. And this is why one can learn a great deal about mysticism from stage magic. What the magician does is he persuades you to see what you expect to see. But in the meantime does something completely unexpected. Your attention has been misdirected. He says, look at this. I want you to look at it very carefully because we don't want any hocus pocus around here. See? So I want you to examine this thing I'm showing you and be sure there's no hocus pocus.
And we take a break for just a second here. Just to let you know that you're listening to Alan Watts on WFMU, Jersey City, New Jersey. Tonight's lecture, Who is that knows there is no ego? Stay tuned. We'll be right back with part 2 in just a second.
Meanwhile, he's doing something that you don't notice at all.